Keisha, you tell me. Tell me when. You sure? Yep. You're not gonna interrupt me? Not gonna interrupt me? Hello, everybody. We just had a closed session briefing on a litigation matter. No votes were taken. I would ask for a motion to seal the minutes.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And we are now reconvened in open session. Just for people's, it's a sparse group here today. Neil was unable to make it back on the boat or on a plane. And unfortunately, Martha is ill with a pretty severe cold. So it's just the three of us. We may skip a couple of things on the agenda just so that we don't have to do it again at our next meeting. So bear with us. And our first item is public comment tonight. Is there anybody who wants to comment publicly? Hi, Barbara. Jess, come aboard. Green light on, name, yada, yada.
Jessica Willie, Block Island Tourism Council, also chair of the Block Island School Committee, and I'm here for two reasons. One is to say that I just got out of the open house for the Block Island schools for the parents. It was great. If you haven't had a chance to meet our new principal, Principal Warner, he's excellent, and I look forward to you all meeting him.
Terrific.
He was principal at Narragansett School for 22 years.
Oh, terrific. That's great.
And the other thing is the Tourism Council's annual meeting is tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, and we hope we'll see you there at the Spring House.
It's tomorrow at 5, right?
Yes. You can win a gift certificate to the glass station bribery.
Hey, I just want to say at the Utility District annual meeting, I won a Yeti cup. You know?
And they gave away.
Exactly. I think I violated the ethics statute. Next up, we have our consent agenda minutes, the MOU on shellfish sanitation and some correspondence. Son, can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The consent agenda is adopted, and now we move on to an update on school construction. Jess, a project near and dear to your heart.
So who's going to do this presentation is Sam and Eric. I think they're on. Okay. Eric, can you just wave so people can see which one's Eric? And
Hey,
Sam's sitting right next to him.
Good evening.
So in case, just to update the folks, these two gentlemen are the OPM for this project. Eric has been the lead on this project from the beginning. It's done a phenomenal job with it. So we're going to turn that over to them. They are the ones that are going to update the council as to where we stand.
Hey, guys, welcome. I know I've had the opportunity to meet you at least once before, and I just really appreciate the time and attention you're giving to this project. It's by our standards pretty gigantic. So the more frequently we can update the community, the better, I think. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight, sir. Is it okay if I share my screen? I know we've given you a preview.
I think easy for me to say. I said yes, and Keisha's about to whack me over the head.
Well, I did share. If I'm not allowed to, if you could just please let me know, I would definitely appreciate that. My name is Eric. I'm a senior project manager with the Peregrine Group. Tonight with me, I do have Samuel Bradner. He is a partner at the Peregrine Group. We've had the opportunity now to work with New Shoreham or Block Island schools for just over a year. We've progressed pretty well. I put together a little agenda for us today just to help us give us a path forward on our discussion to keep it organized. But to the chair, Mr. First Wooden, if you have anything you want to interrupt, please feel free and do so during my talking tonight. The first item we have is our project list. So we do have 4 projects on our calendar to be completed, started next summer. The first item we have is the repair and the resurface of the gym exterior. This is an item that we've been working really close with Mr. Weber on, our chair of the SBC. We do have a insulated panel that will be installed, as well as a cedar shingle that is scheduled to be installed as the basis of design for the gym repair on the exterior. The second item we have is called educational enhancements. This is more of a broader bucket of educational enhancements that are going to happen to the building. We are taking some spaces inside the building and adjusting them. Your nurse's office got relocated during COVID. We're going to relocate it back. You do have some programs where we are going to shift to a more of a STEM type of education. So we will have a maker space in the new area. And the largest item within the educational enhancements is actually the waterproofing on the foundation of the building. We are working on how to get the hydraulic pressure away from the building and place somewhere under either the parking lot or tied into existing storm drains in that area to prevent the leakage that happens right now into your fitness room. M1 is our replacement of the HVAC system. This is a replacement in kind. So the areas that currently have air conditioning will still have air conditioning. The areas that have heat will still have heat, but we are not increasing or decreasing any of the functions of those spaces. So as of right now, your library has air conditioning. It will continue to have air conditioning. The last item we have is the replace plumbing fixtures to meet NE chips. NE chips is an energy efficiency standard that the RIDE SBA has adapted. That is something that all of your plumbing fixtures in bathrooms will be replaced out to be NE chips compliant. A common term that we use is low flow fixtures. So your toilets and sinks will actually have, battery operated flush valves on them that will shut off after a certain period of time to make sure that they meet the energy efficiency requirements.
Hey, Eric, can I ask you a question about the repair and resurface of the gym exterior? Are you basically putting a skin on the outside of the outside of the existing metal framing there? Is that what that'll be basically?
Similar, sir. So what we would do right now is take down all of the metal framing and all of the insulation that's currently in place. They'll replace them with something called a SIP. It's a structurally insulated panel.
Right. Yep.
There'll be new framing on the inside to be able to handle the weight of the new SIP panels that are being installed. Then you'll have an air vapor barrier go over that and siding that goes over that.
I see.
And can you explain to me when you said maker space, what is that?
Yeah, it's an education space within the building. A lot of the times these maker spaces have items like 3D printing and all hands-on type of tool items. There are some examples of you can design something in CAD, print it on a 3D printer, and then test the final implementation of it in the real world. It's the 21st century, STEM type of classroom.
Okay, and that'll replace the STEM classroom that we have right now,
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Eric, just on the inside of the gym, can you just describe what the inside is going to look like of that SIP panel?
It's going to be a piece of insulation on the inside. We're not touching any of the block work itself. The final visual on the upper panels, we're still working through all the details on that, but we believe that inside of the framing area, you will see insulation on the backside, but that will be finalized through our bidding document processor.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Eric. Thank you.
The next few items we have are just some general activities, the date that we do meet. So we do meet weekly with a subcommittee. This is a subcommittee of the school building committee. Your town manager, the superintendent, a few other team members are on it that help us get through the design phases of this project. So we've gone through 2 complete design phases and we're working on our 3rd right now. But that team has met with us weekly and it's been very productive through the process. We also meet monthly with the school building committee that is led by Mr. Weber as the chair. Mary Ann, Tom, Melanie from the school district, as well as the superintendent are all part of this, as well as an educator. Some of the design items that we have. So we did submit our schematic design. RIDE requires 3 submissions to them for review, comment, and then follow up. The first item we had was the schematic design review that was submitted, reviewed, and approved in June of 2023. The next item we have is design development that was submitted to RIDE and approved in August of 23. And the 60% construction documents is our last official submission to RIDE for their design review and comment. And that is right now at 95% complete and ready for submission. We're just waiting for 2 other technical documents prior to making that final submission, which I would anticipate us getting by the end of this week. So after the 60% construction documents are reviewed and approved by RIDE, we would then issue a document called the bidding set of documents. We do anticipate the bidding set of documents going out to the public for public bid by the end of October of 2023.
Great.
So the construction schedule, working with the district and to the ability to least impact the students within your building, the team has decided that a 2-summer construction activity would make the most sense for the district. It would restrict access to the buildings during the summer, but it would allow your school year to be least impacted. The only one that we would see that may go into the fall would be the resurface of the gym exterior, but that would be all an outside work of the building. So summer of 2024 would be the repair and resurface of the gym, the educational enhancements inside and outside of the building, phase 1 of the HVAC install, and replace the plumbing fixtures to meet any chips. So phase 1 and phase 2 is something our design team has worked on. There are some components within the upgrades that do have to happen that are longer lead items. So they've actually worked out a schedule that would allow us to work with the current building infrastructure to get a good portion of the HVAC system installed in summer of 2024. And then we can get our upgrades to the other items that we need, like our electrical components. They would finish the work in summer of 2025. And again, these are tentative schedules. We still need to bid it out, but this is where we would project that these activities happen.
So I'm sorry, Eric, just on the phase 1 versus phase 2 of the HVAC, is phase 1 most of the units and phase 2 is electrical? Or help me understand that. In essence, what will be different at the end of this in September of 24?
Yes, sir. So one of the items we have is that we do need a transformer upgrade to the building to be able to support the new electrical components to support the HVAC systems that are going in. So that what the design team did was they actually coordinated with the current electrical loads in the building, how much of the HVAC projects can be done. So what the proposal would be is like they start with AHU number 1 and they complete all the work with AHU number 1. They start AHU 2, they complete all of the work with AHU number 2. We do have a phasing drawing that's still under review, but it is something that we would complete sections at a time. It wouldn't be components of each section at once. It would be completing sections within the space.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question. You said that the school wouldn't be able to be used as normal, but would some areas of the school be able to be used, for summer school or administrative work?
At the current time, we would see summer 2024 as being extremely challenging. If any parties other than construction personnel were in that building.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I understand this correctly, you would do that first summer 2024, then the crews would be gone for the school year, and then they would come back in the summer of 25. Is that how you view this, Eric?
Yes, sir. That would be our
Gotcha.
proposal, is that we do summer slammers only.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'll just add to Eric, that really came out of a lot of conversations around the challenges that all you folks understand are, how do you do effective construction on the island, but also make sure that you're ensuring that teaching and learning are happening in the building. So no solution isn't without some hard decisions and some hard pivot points that the team has really been trying to work through since we came on board last year. So it's by no means is it perfect, but we believe that this
Sure.
sequencing gets you the things that you need at the end of the project.
I don't think there's any such thing as perfect when you're
Yeah.
talking about, doing work on a building that's occupied and used as heavily as that one is.
Right.
It just is.
So the next steps, this is where we forecast our next 6 to 12 months worth of activities. So our 60% comments are getting into the bidding documents right now in October. We do need the RIDE comments to incorporate into them as well. We are working with Rhode Island Analytical to get our final asbestos abatement plan, so we can include that into the bidding documents as well and submit a copy to RIDOH for their approval, so we can start the process of the areas that were impacting removing the abatement prior to the actual construction happening. We would go out for advertisement and bidding. Q4, October to December of 2023, with our tentative date mid to end of December to award a construction contract. And then we would anticipate phase 1 of the construction commencement beginning in June. We do believe the last day of school right now is 17 June, but that may shift based on other factors that do happen. The next item I have is the RIDE budget. This is a budget summary that we do complete for the Rhode Island Department of Education. The item that you see at the top is $10.393653 million. That's the number that's been discussed, shared. Multiple people have seen that number. That is the number that we've been building this base budget to. The construction estimate total you'll see here, this number is taken directly from an estimator by the name of C2E that has been working through the Secotio drawings as well as the GGD drawings, which is our mechanical and electrical engineer. And then we have an other construction cost of $1 million, which would be the contingency for the project, for the construction hard cost. So overall, our hard cost budget at this point is $8.667 million, which is 83% of the total budget that is available for funding for this project. Our soft costs, again, architectural services, engineering services, consulting services, like your third-party testing agency, as well as your commissioning agent. OPM services are in here, miscellaneous electric, other project contingencies and escalations are included. This number looks a little funny, just because the way RIDE does their portions is they take the percentage of hard costs, not the percentage of total cost. So if this was a total project cost, you'd only be around 17% of the total soft cost number. But the RIDE calculations actually take the percentage versus the hard cost percentage, which puts us at 19.92%. So these are the numbers that we've been working through and progressing towards.
We'll just take your word for that, Eric.
Although I'm glad you explained it. I was wondering how we got to 102%.
Yeah, when me being a math person, when I see 102%, my mind just clicks and says something's wrong. But this is their intended purpose. RIDE's intent is just to make sure that the hard costs don't exceed 20% of the total hard cost for soft costs. So it logically it makes sense. It just translates a little confusing on a document that we share publicly.
It confuses us too, so don't feel bad.
Sir, that would actually complete the agenda and visual I had for tonight.
Wonderful. Any questions, Molly or Sven? No?
The only thing is to thank you. That was an incredibly efficient and great presentation. So thank you very much.
Eric, do
We
you,
expect all the remaining presentations to be as, no.
hey, Eric, do you mind? I'm gonna just, we have some people in the audience. And there may be some questions, and I think more questions and more conversation is better when you're taking on a project this big. So if anybody in the audience has any questions for Eric or Sam, please. No questions. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
We appreciate you allowing us in front of you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Are our Astrolab folks here?
So Scott just came on the camera and Beth is sitting next to them, next to him. They handle our website.
Wonderful.
And the council asked that they join us this evening to discuss the website development goals and the website.
Terrific. Thank you guys for joining us.
for
We only have 3 members of the council here tonight, but just so you know, this topic, what are we going to do? You know, what's our website going to be when it grows up? Comes up pretty regularly. And by the way, the website now is significantly different than it was, you know, probably even a year ago. You know, so don't think that we're saying what the heck is going on, but I think as we consider you know, policy initiatives, it's obviously essential that the website's functionality match what we can do. So I think we voted on your contract, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and wanted to see you. We'll probably want to talk to you, you know, not frequently, don't worry, but we'll probably want to talk to you again. So you want to just sort of walk us through your view of the world?
Well, first of all, thank you both, or everybody, for having us. My name is Beth Grappenstetter. I am the CEO and owner of Astrolabe Partners. And as Marianne indicated, Scott Miller is also on as well. And he is my partner and acting as CTO of Astrolabe Partners. So since taking on the website, we generally field any requests that do come in for anything that needs to be posted all across the board, through all of the departments, whatever is needed, the request will come in and we fulfill it within usually a day when it does come in. So part of what I'm initiating currently right now is I've been in contact with Civic Plus, which is the hosting environment for the town's website. They do offer a yearly revamp of the website. So they're able to assist in doing any kinds of updates on the website that may be new to Civic Plus. So I have started the preliminary conversation with them over at Civic Plus. So there should be some new updates coming up. But as far as the vision, I do think that the layout, though there's a lot there. I will say that this is one of the larger websites that I've worked on. But I think generally I want to make it flow a little bit better, to make it a little bit easier for visitors coming to the site to find things like job postings, any inclement information that they're looking for. It can be a little bit cumbersome to find your destination. So
Yes.
I am looking for ways, and working with Civic Plus, I think will guarantee that I will hopefully be able to get it a little bit more streamlined for the folks that are logging on to the town's website. So that is kind of like the overview of what I think is somewhat problematic with the site now, is just to make it more user-friendly for anybody
Right.
visiting the website.
Right.
So do you have any particular roadmap or vision that you would like to see? Is there anything that the council would like to see?
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to start and say, I would love to move as much of sort of the town interaction, the townspeople's interaction, whether that's licensing. I know how hard Millie and Keisha and the clerk's office are working on those particular aspects. And I think those are the most exciting things going on right now. Working with you guys in Civic Plus to sort of make sure that it's accessible. The other thing, and this is a little bit, I don't know what the adjective would be, but one of the things that struck me, you may not have been aware of it, but we had a 3 or 4 days when the ferry was canceled
Yes.
to and from Block Isle. And I was talking to, he's actually here, I was talking to Bill McComb, who works for Interstate Navigation. And they have done a very good job of making the website the place where people go to get information about what's going on with the ferry. And I know this isn't a magic wand kind of thing, but I would love it if we could be here in and part of this is incumbent upon us to push people to go to the website. I know that it's not all you, but I don't feel like the town website is the coin of the realm in terms of information. Some people use the bulletin board. A lot of people use word of mouth that they heard is going on, et cetera. But that, I think the work you're doing to refine it and make it sort of more seamless or leads to that's the most recent example I can think of where a website has become sort of the trusted source of information.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. And that should definitely be the focal point of where the site goes. I'm actually going to pass it over to Scott. He can talk a little bit more about that as well. Scott, you're muted.
Hey, everyone.
Hey,
So, how are you? And first, I want to start and say we both agree with you, and so does Mary Ann. So the overall intent was to first refine and build content within the website to create relevant information and create a seamless integration so people can navigate the site more easily. And now with the social media push, the intent is also to get a different generation and different set of eyeballs on it. And then recently, throughout the disaster and terrible events that occurred on the island, it actually received a lot of viewership, and people even there inherently were saying, we need to integrate and become more prominent there. So by using both the social media and the website and have everything passing back and forth and disseminating all of the information in different events that are occurring on the island, it's going to inherently just attract more eyeballs at the same time and become more prominent to the point where your website and your social media are the place to go for information and happenings on the island. It's getting there, and we recognize, and even in discussion with Mary Ann and everyone, we understand that this evolution, and we don't want to make it seem like, okay, we're breaking everything and putting something brand new again, because you've already been through a lot. So we're just slowly trying to tweak it and make the adjustments and using the news flash and building up the news feeds and posts that go out. So you should see that picking up more and being a little more integrated, and hopefully get it to where you hope to see it in a relatively short amount of time.
Right. So can I ask a technical question? Not technical, but one of my things that is challenging is that we have, and this is perhaps unavoidable, but it's on the seamlessness side. We have ClerkBase that hosts a whole pile of announcements, minutes, agendas, et cetera. And then we have the town website, and I'm wondering, whether that is something that's common for you, when you're working with clients. This is, by the way, none of this is that anybody's not doing anything. It's just like, here's the stuff we see. And it sometimes when we say, well, that's been on ClerkBase, there's a sort of like, well, what's ClerkBase? And you type in Clerks HQ, and then you have to find your town, and then when you get to your town, you have to find the browse button, and it just seems like I would love it if we had the kind of functionality that made that jump smoother.
As importantly, if we can build on that,
Yeah,
ClerkBase
please.
takes a couple of hours to load. So Millie will sometimes send in a document and it'll take 4 hours, 3 hours. And a number of people pointed out to us at every meeting when it's not up yet, even though it's been sent. So if there's a way to get it faster.
Yeah.
Or in-house.
So that's a great question. We can certainly look at it. I do recall looking through ClerkBase myself, and you can tell it's been around for many years, and the technology they use is certainly showing, without inherently pulling all that out and building out your own repository, which I don't even know actually if there are regulations that you can do that. We would need to look and see if ClerkBase has the ability to actually dual feed the information, or it just needs to be decided what documents are required to live on ClerkBase and what documents can actually be posted
Sure.
on your website. But we can certainly explore that with you.
I guess what I would ask you is, as you're doing this stuff, if you have a moment where you say, you know what these guys should do with this, please tell us, because it's not my area of expertise, it's not our area of expertise, but you get where we're coming from.
Absolutely. And to Scott's point, we definitely want to make sure that we are taking your vision and making it easier and creating that, but also staying within regulations. We want to make sure that it's where the documents are where they need to be for regulation reasons. But that's something that Scott and I will explore, and we should be able to get an answer for you.
Yeah, and it's not it's just, the prevailing thing is, let's make it as seamless, let's make it the place where people go for information. And I think this thing has made tremendous strides. I really do. When you think about what it used to be, it's pretty extraordinary, but it can be even more extraordinary if that's possible.
I agree. And I've always said to Marianne, I love this website because there is literally everything there. Everything about the island, you can find it on this website. It's just a matter of being able to easily find it on the website. So that's the next challenge. The next step is to try to simplify that for everybody, for tourists, for the council, for people that live on the island. We want to make sure that it is their trust, like you said, the trusted website that they can go to for the information.
Right, right.
Yeah, that would be my only feedback is it's a million times better than what we had before, but it could be just a little bit more intuitive. Like if you wanted to do a building permit, if you're just like, oh, I want to fill out the application for a building permit, you've got to fish a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, who's in charge of updating it? Like, who's in charge of giving you the information for updating this for just straight up information on there in terms of, not links, but like who's on what committee or, who to get in touch with, when positions change?
So everybody in the department, as far as I know, knows to send the request to me if they're unable to do it themselves. We get requests from all over, from the town. From Millie sends them in, Charlene sends them in. Sometimes Marianne will ask as well. So there are various departments that do submit the information. And usually it's a Word document that'll come over with an email, and I'll convert it to a PDF on Civic Plus.
All right, so here's
Still says Lori, but
here's the Sven just pointed out to me, and I have to say this is slowly I turn. So if you look on our website, it has a thing that says public meetings. Okay. We have the Conservation Commission on Tuesday, October 10th, the Planning Board on the 11th, yada yada. Nothing about the town council, no ability to click through to our agenda, et cetera. That's the kind of thing that ought to be really easy for people. So that's just my,
And honestly, on that calendar, because I love the calendar idea.
Yes.
When you click it now, it would be really nice if you could get to the agenda that's approved. Right now, it goes to sort of a description and a blank or public notice type thing. So if there
Okay.
is a way to make that a usable document, that would be really helpful. So basically go to that calendar and you can almost click on any of those meetings, any of those days.
Yep, for sure. And like I said, when the
on, Steve.
information comes over, if there is an agenda that does come in a file, then we will upload it there as well. So we can definitely make sure that it is more visible.
But if you could, I'm sorry, I don't want to put the burden only on Millie or the clerk's office. So as you say, when the information comes over, I guess what I'd like to do is to figure out a way to make it so easy for recreation to put stuff on or whatever it may be. The easier, the better facilitation would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
Terrific. And I know we have one person in particular who has really just done such a fabulous job. Really kind of watching the website and participating in our conversations, and that's David Lewis. And I don't know if you have anything to talk about, David.
Oh, prepare comments.
David Lewis, Compass Road. Actually, I'm not as well prepared as I thought it was going to be, but I've got enough that we can discuss thoroughly tonight. Over the last year, since the website went live, Marianne has asked me to take on occasion looks at certain things, and I have provided some original feedback to her. And one of the important things I just wanted to focus on tonight, because it's a segue for some of the things I would say, is that I was talking about clerk base and the difficulty in working with clerk base as outside the system. And let me say before I quote Marianne, I'll tell you that over the years' time, I've had an opportunity to become more familiar with clerk base and all the things we're not using for yet, as far as other than the council and the planning board and zoning, all of the other organizations at almost at the worker bee level of community interest, as well as people's inputs. Is that I've become adequately familiar with all of that functionality that I can say the following. So Mary Ann said to me at the end of one email back in June, this is a year ago, June, this is June 2022. She said, Millie and she had decided to post all the boards and commission agendas and minutes to Clerkbase. We are working with Clerkbase to finalize. And Millie anticipates by the end of June, we will be ready to implement. So I can report that, as far as I'm concerned, Millie did exactly what she was asked to do and what I would have hoped that she had done. For all of the other departments and commissions, just to name, some of those are the primary ones that, other than the council, are planning board, zoning board, historic district, police advisory commission, and what's the fifth one?
Conservation, maybe?
Conservation Commission, thank you. And then below that, there are all the other committees and commissions in town that go by plethora of names. There's probably 15 or 20 of them. So what exists in there today, underneath, for example, the historic district commission,
Mm-hmm.
there's this section that looks just like the town council.
Right.
And there's a place to put the agendas, there's another place to put the minutes, and if they, in the archive, and if they follow further enough into the past or the future, they can segregate that structure according to year, calendar year. So that's the hard part. Millie's built all that,
Right.
and it's all there. But
Yes.
how effectively it's being used, and I can say with great confidence that council works as good as we would hope it does, because council being the first team in town, that's where we wanted to do the best first. Planning board and zoning board are equally effective on the agendas, and the problem with the minutes is only the potential delay in getting minutes approved at meetings and getting them posted. When you look at those other principal organizations like the Police Advisory Commission, Conservation Commission, and thank you,
HDC.
HDC. They're less effective at what they do. And I think it's just a matter, I don't know what it is, but it's a staffing issue. It's management. It's making it happen because the structure is there. And it works well if people would use it. Moving on to that list down below of the 15 or 20 other organizations, it runs the gamut from not good to really bad, or not used at all. You can find the full range, nothing is anything you would want to show anybody as part of your showcase. So again, the structure's there, it's all built, but we just need the direct people to do it, use it, and then get the public to refer back to it. Going back to my vision, going back to 5 years ago, when I started paying more attention to this kind of stuff after I retired, was that in fact the town's website should be the single source of town public information in one place where the town manages its own information that is in fact public information to be fully accessible to the town's people as well as the people who need to apply for licenses and so forth and so on. This is how I put it all together. I'm usually more organized than I apologize.
You're doing great. Thank you.
So let's talk about what's missing. What's missing has nothing to do with any of the boards and commissions per se. It's about the work product that they produce, which helps run the business on a daily basis throughout the community. Viewers, citizens, public information, what people want to know about things that impact their daily lives, and so forth and so on. So just to cite a few classic, probably the most important examples. Deer hunting days. They're almost impossible to find and not maintained on the website. One would think the logical place for something like that is in the committee area for the task force.
This is on clerk base.
This is on clerk base.
Yeah.
No, this is on our website.
Oh, on the website. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't make the connection back.
So, the most reliable place you can get it is, I guess, the newspaper. I don't really know where that is.
Yeah.
If you're shocked, you can get it when the council approves it, hold on to it till the next year when it becomes
Mm-hmm.
current for that year. Taxi waiting list, everybody would like to know what that is, and there's no reason to keep this information shielded because it's available, the work is already done, there's nothing secret about it, all we need to do is publish it or get the taxi commission to be maintaining it on their own webpage. Current taxi license owners, who are they? If anybody wants to file a complaint, who's the person that's driving Tom's cab?
Mm-hmm.
Voter lists. I spoke to Lily about this about a month or so ago in passing, because that could easily be there. The voter list that becomes the first cut at reviewing before elections, when the board of canvassers do that. There's precedence for publishing that on the town website because it was there during COVID. I made a copy, still got it. In the most recent election, financial town meeting, there were two places you could find that list. One was behind it in the town clerk's office. We had to reach up high up here to even reach it to turn the pages. Or one was in the library where you couldn't get to it because it was behind a bunch of chairs,
Mhm.
inaccessible. Maybe that's a legal posting, but the reality is it belongs on the website. And then the last example simply put is the fact that these lists already exist. There's no more work to create them, we just need to publish them or maybe build them in the right spot the first time, which is online. I do need to acknowledge a couple of people who are doing a couple of things really, really well. First is Heidi Tarbox with the town's website for the land trust page.
Mm-hmm.
And she posts monthly, regularly, and as close on time as anybody could be, the property transfer lists. It's always there. And then the other point I would make is the Sea Level Rise Committee, the newest committee in town almost. They've got agendas posted, they've got minutes posted, not only for 2023, but they voted everything from 2022 as well. And the agendas are up to date, and the minutes are 2 months behind, which is probably the delay in getting things approved until the next monthly meeting.
Mhm.
So.
Judy
No, I
Gray, Judy Gray is in charge.
Judy Gray,
Yeah,
yes.
that's Judy.
I told
She's
her-
organized.
I told her last April on Earth Day, what a great job Heidi was doing. And she was really excited. But it just goes to show what can be done and what can be done relatively easily if you just do it right and you're set up inside to do it correctly. So the last thing I would touch on is the search bar. So one of the things I'm embarrassed to say, and I apologize to Mary Ann, she asked me to look at that in June and I've never gotten back to her, just other than to say I wasn't ready. And one of the reasons I wasn't ready was that there's such a dearth of information out there of the kind of information that John Q. Public would look for, that I can't come up with anything because there's nothing loaded. For example, my best test case was Heidi Tarbox again, because I knew the property transfer first data was out there. So I searched for property transfers. And it was the third item down on the list, that the first two entries weren't what I was looking for, but they were all related to land trust. But the takeaway from this exercise is, number one, I couldn't really evaluate, I could say the following. The search bar appears to be robust, but I can't prove it because there's not enough data to build enough test cases to demonstrate it to myself, never mind to Mary Ann. So I apologize, Mary Ann, for the delay in getting back to you, but now you know why. So the last thing I would say is we need the guidance of the professionals to help us learn to build these to position data and use the proper naming conventions so that John Q. Public can in fact search with only modestly intelligent search keys and still get a result. And one of the keys to success in doing that is to have one structure, one manner for identifying file names. And the last thing I would say is, this is phenomenal.
All the time. Has it? The last thing I would say was,
I'm going to text you and complain about the fact that I
I
could.
wish you would. Now I lost my own train of thought. File naming conventions. Well, okay, we'll save that for the next round.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Dave.
Well, I apologize for not turning on the microphone and shame for my colleagues for not jumping at me, picking me up. But anyway, good luck to all of us.
Thank you, David. Any other questions? Chris?
Chris Warfelevitz, hello. I don't know if this is, obvious and all that, but if every committee and commission in the town of New Shoreham does post their agenda and minutes to the Secretary of State website, everything that, apparently sounds like it's missing. If this town website linked to the Secretary of State, we would all have that. So not to put a burden on the clerks, if they upload to the Secretary of State or whoever the clerk is for that commission or committee, automatically it goes to the town website, that would cover everything. And then you'll find out, like I have, how late some committees are and commissions are in submitting their minutes and all that stuff. But that would be, I don't know if this is obvious and you already know that, web designer team, but a lot of us use the email function from the Secretary of State to get updates to all these meetings that we're interested in. And to me, it would just be a quick way to achieve what I heard was missing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Did you guys hear that?
We did. Yes.
So I have one more important question for you. Your company name is ASTROLABE. Is it Astrolab or Astrolabe?
It's Astrolabe.
Astrolabe.
Yes.
Terrific.
It's a common mistake, though. A lot of people call it Astrolab. I'll respond to either
Are
one.
you saying I made a mistake?
What's that? Maybe. I don't know. It's a very, very old instrument that I named
Yes.
the company after. It's actually a nautical instrument.
Yeah, it's
Go
fantastic.
figure.
I hope this was helpful to you.
Yes, very much so.
And I hope
Yes.
I hope you and everybody received it in the spirit in which it was offered, which is this is important to us. And I would argue actually particularly important to a town like ours that has a lot of people who are interested in it who don't necessarily live here year round. You know what I mean? So remote access, if you will, is kind of an important function for us. So thank you very much for all the work you're doing. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. Both
Thank
of
you. And thank everybody. Thank you for your questions and
That's good.
also the information you provided as well. Very helpful.
Thanks. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, David.
I apologize, but I did remember the point. I couldn't remember it at the end. It's on. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention the importance of publishing PDFs that are searchable, not ones that are produced as images, because you can't search within the PDF for specific facts. It sounds obvious, but it happens way too often.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 6, discuss scheduling of community forum on wind energy projects. We are going to, Keisha and Millie are working with our outside folks to schedule a forum for the entire community on the wind energy projects that are proposed south, southeast, and east of the island sometime in the next few weeks. Is that fair to say, Keisha?
Yes.
Yes.
Looking at the week of the 16th of October right now.
Okay, terrific. We're gonna try to host that here in the council chambers. If by chance we get, we get a sense that it's going to be significantly more people than we can accommodate here, we'll figure that out. But we'll stack as many chairs in here, as we can. So anyway, just wanted to let people know that we were going to do that. Item 7, I see Kirk's here. I was going to talk about fire safety requirements for eligibility for certain town permits. So I think the more we learn, the more we've learned over the last week or so, I think it would be worthwhile to schedule a get together with us, town folks, the department, business owners, to make sure that we are getting square and ready for the next season. I just, some of the stuff I've read really worries me, and I think we need to just be thoughtful as a community. None of it is controversial, among, I don't think the businesses or the town but I think we have to put our best foot forward on this, and we'll be scheduling something. Okay, that makes sense?
Keith,
Yes.
do you want to mention about what the information we received from the fire marshal when we asked about those folks?
Oh,
that were
please do.
inspected by,
Yes, please do.
I'm trying to think of the name of the company. Hang on, let me see if Kurt, you know the name of that company that they suspended the license for? AAA, thank you. So, thank you, Kurt. So I sent a letter to the fire inspector at the request of the council, requesting some information. And also I asked him if those folks that did use AAA, what would they recommend? And they recommend that they do get things re-inspected by a different third-party vendor. So we're letting folks know that that is the recommendation. It's my understanding that some folks have started doing that anyway on their own.
Sure.
But I think we need to get that message out to folks. So I'd be looking to probably share that with some of our the chamber folks and things like that. So we can
Great.
send that out.
Terrific. Thank you for that update and for asking. Next, we have a discuss and act on legislation mandating changes to the local zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. Is Allison here?
Yes.
Allison, we've missed you so. You haven't joined us in months. Was it something we said?
No.
She said that quiet.
Yeah, right. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
So I wanted to just get the town council prepared for some ongoing work that's going to be coming up on your, some future agendas related to the 2023 state legislative session. There were a significant amount of laws that were passed that impact local zoning code and subdivision regulations. So the local municipalities have a lot of amendments to be drafted in the next several months. The state has put forward some resources, so we were anxiously awaiting some of those templates that Rhode Island Housing had contracted with Weston and Sampson to prepare templates to help municipalities prepare these language changes. So those templates just came out last week. And there was also part of that actually was funded through what's called the MTAP program that the state had funded $4 million to help municipalities more broadly with, streamlining local review processes to help facilitate housing development. So municipalities can apply for technical assistance to help there are several different eligible items. However, most towns really what they need right now is assistance in drafting specific language, utilizing those templates to customize them for their own local zoning and subdivision regulations. So we submitted a pre-application. I learned today that our pre-application has been approved. And so now the next step will be to contact a list of vendors on Rhode Island Housing's already approved list to get to get a budget and a timeline to submit a full application back to Rhode Island Housing. So hopefully, the town will be able to, with state funding, hire a consultant that can assist with drafting these amendments.
So
In the
could we use
meantime-
our,
Yep.
could we use Karen as our person?
No.
Is that the idea?
Well, we can certainly, I will start preparing draft
Sure,
language.
yeah.
Karen will be involved.
Yes,
Hopefully, yeah, there'll be other, obviously the planning board there will be local, obviously staff and volunteers involved in the process. We're hoping to just get, if we were able to, a consultant, if it's at no cost to the town, of course, take advantage of that to help, because there is a lot of work to be done. But
Sure.
we don't know if that's going to come to fruition. So, and there, some of these are, we're very short on time because some of these are enacted as of January 1st. So most communities in the state are going to be in the same position where
Sure.
all of these amendments aren't going to be adopted, given how long it takes to go through a public hearing process and adoption process. But we will start drafting the specific amendment language, utilizing the resources available, and not expecting an extension, not expecting a consultant, but hopefully those resources will come and that timeline could be extended for municipalities. But we want to just give you that update, make you aware of, the work that's going to be really kicking into high gear, basically. Next week, it'll be on the planning board's agenda. We can start getting into more specifics related to the individual bills and what amendments need to occur and what, feedback I need to receive from the planning board on any local policy type changes.
Great.
Mhm.
Allison, in one of your memos, at least, you say that the town may want to establish a working committee. What
Yeah,
did you- how did you view that? I mean, do you want staff and somebody from planning and somebody from the council? Is that the kind of thing you were envisioning?
yes, a combination, right, of staff and solicitor, volunteers, definitely a planning board member too. And if we have a consultant too, it's hard when, certain boards only meet monthly and they
Sure,
do the
yeah.
agenda, and given the timeline, if there's a small working group that can, have more regular informal meetings to get the work, prepared for those monthly agendas. I think that could be useful. I think it was
Great.
utilized similar in recently for other amendments. So
Yes.
I can speak with the planning board next week and get their thoughts on it, see what they think. And again, this is kind of an evolving situation. Wednesday morning, we have a meeting, Rhode Island Housing, I'm meeting with them and the planners to go through the templates and questions on those. And we'll find out hopefully soon on the consultant, but it is a strategy that might help, I thought, to speed up, hopefully it'll accelerate the pace that we are able to prepare the amendments, or at least, produce like a better quality, have, more eyes reviewing it and more local input. So.
Sure, and presumably, this stuff is statutorily mandated, but having members of, I mean, I'd be happy to do it, people like that who are explaining to people that a lot of this stuff we're required to do to be in conformance with state statute, I think is an important message to deliver consistently.
Right. So there are some of those straightforward amendments where it is just language changes
Yep.
that don't have any decisions, but there are going to be some
Sure.
changes where the town does have decisions to
Right.
locally on
Right.
how you're going to interpret that, how you're going to implement that.
Right.
So, yeah, it isn't all just cut and paste from state
Right,
legislation. There are
Gotcha.
some decisions to be made locally.
Yeah, terrific. Are there any questions for Allison? Or for Mary Ann, who's submitted?
No, I think this working group was something that Allison, myself and Karen had a discussion about, and that's
Great.
how we came to this. And I'm really pleased. I hadn't talked to Allison today, but I'm pleased to hear that our MTAP has been approved,
Great.
pre-approved, so we can submit a full application, which gives us a consultant that's going to do the bulk.
Good.
And I think just following up on it, Marianne, the key thing is we just don't want to overwhelm planning because a lot of this does go through planning with land use, some of the housing.
That's why we're looking to do
Yeah,
a small
yeah.
working group.
Yeah.
I think it'll go quicker.
It has to,
Yeah.
because we need planning to do planning.
Sosha?
Hi, Allison.
Is that green light on?
It's Sosha Cohen, Chapel Street. A basic question, Allison. Until these ordinances are changed, will there be someone like you or our attorney, our town attorney, who can speak on behalf of any given change in ordinance due to an applicant coming to the planning board and saying, I want X, Y, and Z? And we, as planning board members, will not know that these changes have been made.
Yeah, so that's something that, yeah, when some of these go into effect in January, that state law will prevail, right? And so our local code would not be what needed to be followed in some cases. So it is going to get very confusing and difficult to administer those local regulations and
But who will
put an
know?
application through the process. So yeah, it's, yeah.
Who
certainly.
will know what those changes are in relationship to a given request?
I assume Allison and
Yeah.
Karen.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Good question. You know,
Thank you.
I was wondering the same thing, like if you get an
Right.
application under the new statutory guidance and the town's ordinances haven't been updated, what do you do?
Right?
Yeah,
It's not, in some cases, not going to be an easy answer. Like we may not have an answer if the strategy or the process hasn't been established locally as far as whether something goes to a technical review committee, planning board. So it's going to be some teamwork there involved with staff and the solicitors, but hopefully we'll be able to make some progress in the next few months and we'll all have a better understanding. Town hall is going to have a much better understanding of what the legislation is and the amendments to be made by January to be able to better
Terrific.
answer those questions, right?
thank you, Allison. Really appreciate it. Any other questions for Allison? No? Fantastic. Thank you. Have a great night. Thanks for sticking around.
Thank
You learned a lot about school construction and our website and, maybe there's an opportunity there for you. You never know. Thank you, Allison.
Right.
Item 9, discuss an act on ballot for Block Island Utility District Board of Directors. This is where your inexperienced chair of the town council, Keith J. Stover, made a mistake. I thought at our last meeting that someone had said we could deliver our ballot tonight. That is not the case. It's too late. That's my mistake. And it will not happen again. And I apologize. I'm sorry. Sven, you're next. This-
That was faster than that. So as some people may have seen, there's an attachment to the agenda in clerk base. There's a discussion about potential fields and or potential courts being put on a piece of land that the land trust and the town.
Did you announce to the public that we were skipping item number 10?
Oh, no, I didn't. Thank you very much. I can't, I know David Lewis is clairvoyant, but not everybody is. Yes, go ahead. Come, Chris.
It's on the legislation.
Item 9, Chris Warfel.
Yes,
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I did inform the town council. about
you did.
this. And, I'm very disappointed and I understand mistakes happen. These elections don't come up all that often. And we lost a huge opportunity for the town to make a statement on where it sees our future. The incumbents, in my opinion, show no vision. And we had candidates that did, and the town, did the town ever find out how many votes it actually had?
Mary Ann,
I'm sorry, I'm getting close to that.
we have one ballot.
We have one
One
ballot.
ballot for all the meters,
I'm sorry?
for all the meters? You get
Yes,
one?
just one ballot.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, obviously, we have had votes where one vote made a difference. But I really thought this would be a good opportunity for gauging the town council's affinity for change and for sticking to the things that it says through the charter and through its other venues of communication about sustainability, energy conservation, et cetera.
Mhm. And
So
I,
I just want to say that.
yeah, Chris, and I gotta tell you, I think you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, I messed this one up. You're right.
Well, I'm not trying to beat anyone.
No, I know you're not trying to, but I'm saying you're right.
We,
When you're
there's
right,
so
you're
few
right.
opportunities to actually right the ship.
I mean,
This one.
you're right about our needing to pass the ballot.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
Did you,
oh, sorry.
go ahead, Bill.
I'm kind of glad you missed the ballot. I feel like we elected people to represent us. I think with the utility district, we all get to vote on it.
Yeah.
We all have a voice.
Uh-huh.
So
The town had one vote, you had one vote.
I understand, but you are us.
Yeah.
You are the town. So I know this isn't place for the debate, but I
It's
think there's a plausible argument from that side.
Yep, absolutely. I just feel like I had made a commitment to do it, so I don't like it when I can't execute on a commitment that I made. And so anyway, thank you, Bill, and thank you, Chris. The MOU that we're going to discuss on item number 10 is not yet ripe. That'll be at our next meeting. And now we're on to item 11, discuss an act on requesting the Recreation Board. Boy, you know how to write a long agenda item, Mr. Reason.
We do.
Yes.
Trying to share-
It's your
share some of
turn.
the-
It's your turn.
Anyway, so a discussion came up to the land trust and to the town, and a person had written it regarding grant applications for courts and whether it was going to be on Ball O'Brien or K&H or Sanpete Meadow. So a little cycle started and some emails started, and my goal in putting this on the agenda, and Chris Willey's here, who's head of the rec board, and Dave and Dawn and others, is really just a conversation, I hope, just a little bit about what the long-term, short-term goals are as far as looking for recreational assets meaning courts or fields, et cetera, and how we start planning and to think about planning out. And if that means we need to do some things quickly, maybe we can. If it means we have to plan a little longer, but many of the town lands, as I think everybody in this room knows, have different restrictions and different capabilities. So I just think we need to have the discussion. So I don't know, Chris, if you want to say a little bit about, you wrote a good email, just letting people know, or others.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So the rec board, over the past few months has been discussing, among other things, pickleball, courts.
Yeah.
So, for those that don't know, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. It's no different here. the recreation department, Dave and his team have been coming up with ideas on how to accommodate everybody with as little conflicts as possible. So
If you
have,
figure that out.
What's that?
You should publish.
Dave is gonna run.
So obviously for outdoor pickleball, we have Ball O'Brien, which has basketball courts and tennis courts. Currently, there are 3 pickleball courts. Right, Dave? 2 on the basketball, 1 on the tennis. I objected to the basketball part of it because that is our only basketball court.
Mhm.
We have 2 tennis courts. We voted at the last meeting to add another pickleball court to one of the tennis courts that already has a pickleball court. So this is happening all over America, by the way.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's like
my
pick up a newspaper.
I visit my folks in Florida. They're pickleball bananas.
Yeah.
They love it. My dad's a referee. I ask him all the time how they dealing with it. And the majority of communities down there are just building dedicated courts to avoid
Mm-hmm.
or phasing out certain tennis courts that don't get used.
Right.
All right. We don't, here is, we have limited recreational facilities. So we're trying to accommodate the outdoor portion of the sport with what's existing without conflicting with existing use. The indoor portion occupies a good chunk of gym time.
Yeah.
And I think there's 3 courts taped onto the school gym floor. So the demand is there. And there's a grant opportunity to get some funding, which I think the town has taken advantage of in the past for things like Heinz Field.
Mm-hmm.
To secure some funding for dedicated pickleball courts. And the discussion is where Ball O'Brien would be an obvious choice. There was room there, correct, Dave? Between the existing pavilion and the existing tennis courts. The concern there is the parking is already overburdened. So we would have to find additional parking. Now, I know at some point in time, there were plans to put parking before the first gated entrance to Ball O'Brien. So right before the pavilion, over on the right.
Oh, okay.
So that was one idea. And the other idea was what I always call, I'm sorry, I think I said H&H, it's K&H property. That came up. I'm not familiar with any other ideas as far as properties, but the land trust obviously is instrumental in this. They hold the cards, they hold the properties. So where they can go is the discussion, I think.
Can I just ask for a clarification? Is K&H where people park for the farmer's market?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And where they can go is obviously the major discussion. I'm under the impression that historically we've done DEM grants and other grants with the concept, not necessarily having the location nailed down. I should also point out that, this project certainly will seek outside funding for, particularly with the Lions Club. It's at the Ball O'Brien Park was built by the Block Island Lions Club for all intents and purposes. And if that is the direction that we're told to go, we'll certainly, actually, it doesn't matter. We'll still seek funding from the Lions, the Lions Club, because they've supported the recreation facilities out here, outdoor recreation for forever, 30 years that I remember. So that's kind of where we're at.
Are there other court needs or other needs you guys look down? I know there was some discussion. I've heard about Frisbee golf, or I've heard about other things, and maybe I don't.
Yeah,
What I guess, Chris, where I'm. I'm trying to think about, and obviously the town has a role in Ball O'Brien, not in K&H, et cetera. What I'm trying to think about is thinking 2 years down the road, and I don't want to make this a huge study, but I'm just thinking a few years down the road, where do we put so that we then think about when's lot coverage or where's flexibility? What, and it's not, my questions are not trying to stop anything.
Right.
It's just making sure that we don't stub our toe and in a year and a half, a maritime center or a badminton.
So I
what it is.
I think is figure out where you can't put them. Like, where can we not put them? First, what's available? Where are you not allowed to put hard courts? Well, that's the majority of places.
Right.
Like you narrow the opportunities down quite a bit. And same thing with, you know, I think in the email I noted that most of the research, all the research I said, the one complaint other than, you know, having adequate parking was noise. So take that in consideration.
Right.
You don't want to locate it outside, I'm sure, commercial zones, certain zones, and because of the noise.
Right.
But that may be a discussion. I mean, Heinz Field is in.
You can't put hard courts at Heinz Field.
No, I'm just saying, but you know, there's noise there too.
No, I mean, like, this is like, this is like, I can't explain it because I don't play
It
it.
has,
But apparently anybody here that plays
it has
it, like,
introduced near violence.
it
in
is,
some
it is,
communities.
I don't know. Like, that's everything I've done is complaints regarding the noise. And I don't know if it's people yelling or if it's, you know,
No,
hitting
it's
the ball, but
It's the noise of the ball hitting
noise
the
of the ball.
rackets.
So,
Here on the island.
no, but but when we look at planning a facility, you have to take in
Yeah.
things like that. So, you know,
Right.
um,
I mean, you are across from the cemetery.
but at the rec board level, those two locations seem the most obvious because of one's already a facility that has everything there, including bathrooms, and the other side, K&H, was availability for parking and space.
So is the land trust engaged on this as well, or is somebody engaging the land trust on this?
Dave, that's a question for you because
Yes, we've had, these go to one of the.
Dave Sniffen, Recreation Director. We've had meetings with the Land Trust, particularly in April, discussing, just getting on their radar to say that we want to find a place to put these courts. We're trying to find a location. And so they've been on board since then. The only thing this grant is due like December 6th, and we still have a lot of hoops to jump through. So we're just trying to more or less see if we can find a location. The grant itself doesn't really require necessarily require a set location. Am I correct, Dawn?
So they need a map of the project area, so we do have to have.
I think they do.
Yeah, they don't need the project building all, you know, they don't need.
Well, they don't need project specifics.
Parking lot.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, we've spoke with the land trust. We had a meeting in April, and we're just trying to find a place to put these, and hopefully getting, you know, with this grant, so we can move forward, because it's you know, it'll be a process.
So Dave, or it's somewhat similar question to Chris. If you're taking now putting two pickleball courts on one of the tennis courts, is that because there is less demand for tennis than there is for pickleball? Or are we just having a conflict come up, much like basketball or whatever it may be?
I can say anecdotally that in my opinion, pickleball players, for instance, one time at the park, we had 34 people show up for our pickleball program, and there were 4 people playing tennis. The other rationale behind putting a second court on the tennis court is we have one there. If someone's playing pickleball on it, the other half of the tennis court can't be used anyway. So adding another court isn't that drastic a measure. In my opinion, pickleball obviously is huge and it's not going away. And there's a lot of people into it, a lot of people all the time.
Given that it seems, again, like Chris, I don't play it and I'm reading a lot about it. So, is it worth to just flip one of the tennis courts to 3 pickleball courts? For at least the next year or 5 years, or at least see how long this wave lasts?
I think that we would get a lot of pushback from the tennis community, seeing as that we have 2 tennis courts and.
Well, you have 4 against 34, so
Right.
I'm just trying to judge the.
I don't have hard numbers for it, but I think we'd get pushback for it. We could fit 3 or 4 pickleball courts on a single tennis court if we, reconfigured it. But
Can I ask you a question? So the last time I was at a rec board meeting where you talked about this, the conversation was similar to what Chris was saying about putting 2 or 3 pickleball courts in between the pavilion and the tennis courts on that little hillside there.
Right.
Right? And I know like previously the plan the Lions Club had was to put in fitness stations. That's gone away. That company went out of business over
Right.
COVID. So that's not a consideration any longer. So why wouldn't you be rolling forward with that proposal?
Parking.
So is parking a requirement of the grant?
Well, it's not, Dawn could speak to that. I'm just like the parking issue right now at Ball O'Brien with the facilities that exist, it's maxed out.
No, I
So
get
why add another, I personally am in support of Ball O'Brien. If we can find parking somewhere else.
right. And
or-
I'm not saying we don't
Yes.
solve for parking
Yeah.
along the way, but you're telling me that right now you're running 3 pickleball courts on basketball and tennis courts,
Right,
right? So if we build 3 pickleball courts.
there wouldn't be a
we're talking
change,
about parking for
but-
4 tennis players.
but there's already a parking issue.
I understand that.
So you're
I
saying there
drive
would
by
be
there all the time.
6
Seen it,
courts?
but-
no, there would be 3 dedicated courts.
And then-
Basketball courts and tennis courts would all be dedicated
I
to
see.
those.
And then they wouldn't have pickleball on the basketball.
I mean,
courts any longer.
here's again, and this is happening everywhere. You go in to take. My thought process is when discussing this at rec board levels, we have 1 basketball court, we have 2 tennis courts. Okay. Let's not take over a basketball court that is dedicated. That's the only one. Now, if we had 2 basketball courts and 2 tennis courts, my initial feeling would be, all right, well, let's split them both, put 4 courts, right? The problem with not having the ability to do that is you're going to get conflicts and you're going to get feathers ruffled. And the tennis community certainly has, they use those courts. However, when I look at the populations that use either like whether it's basketball or tennis, the adults in the room are playing the tennis, the kids in the room are playing basketball. Who can schedule it? Who can follow a schedule? Who can, it makes sense to have tennis and paddle sports dedicated on, in my mind, tennis courts, right? That's what they've done in a lot of places. There's dual use. You roll out your paddleboard courts, your paddleball nets that one goes on either side. It's split down the middle with the tennis net. Like you can put 2 courts and everybody can play their game. That's what I would, I think with the addition of the pickleball court on the other side of the existing tennis court that has one already would certainly help during the outdoor season.
Yeah, in this timeframe, the off seasons, it would meet the needs. In the summertime, I mean, I don't know how many courts would possibly meet the needs, but if they have a dedicated court, then at least the entire day they could be playing and not taking over tennis courts or basketball courts. That's why I feel like there's a huge need for it.
So from a planning point of view, and it's really about courts and parking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just making sure I'm hearing it. And I guess, as we think about a plan and we think about permeable surfaces, parking spaces, lands that can or can't support, is what I'm hoping comes out of this is a lot of motion to get that plan in place so that as you go to the land trust or as you come to council, it's very clear that, hey, this is what we need for the next, I'm making it up, 2 years.
Right.
And then we can sort of say, okay, got it. Yeah, I'm not into more subcommittees to your comment or more, I think this can be done pretty efficiently and it may already be done. I just, the note that started this discussion was a little bit like, okay, we got a grant, we got to go, we're on the spot. And it's like, okay, how do we just make sure we aren't literally lot coverage? I mean, I just have no idea what Ball O'Brien is, and does that limit other needs?
Right,
you want to put a dock down there in 3 years? Let's just sort of weigh these things out.
Right, that'll be, I mean, that's got to be addressed through zoning about, lot coverage and.
But at least, and we can do that quickly though.
Yeah.
If we look at those 3 courts on Ball O'Brien plus some other potential needs, maybe we're far away from lot coverage. I have no idea.
Can I just
Hmm?
put my 2 cents in?
I think I might have been, if this
Chris
really.
lets you. No.
Thanks, Chris. Will Young, I think I was the one who brought this to a head. I'm working with Dawn on the grant. My conception in looking at the whole big picture is that Ball O'Brien makes a lot of sense because the basketball court would remain for the kids. And I don't like the notion that we're taking over the basketball court. But the fact is, as David pointed out, sometimes there are 35 people there. What I perceive we could do is put in 3 courts at Ball O'Brien. On most days, those 3 courts would be fine. People could be playing tennis, they could be playing basketball. On certain days, maybe a tournament, which could bring people in, could support tourism. We could make use of the 2 courts on the basketball court, maybe 1 court on the tennis court or 2, and the 3 courts, and we would still have people standing around because that's how big pickleball is right now. And agreed, the parking is an issue. And I don't know anything about the lot coverage. That's another issue that it's not part of my thing. My concern about.
It is part of the thing.
Absolutely. I'm not arguing it's
I
not.
think the planning is, and I don't mean to jump, but the idea of let's do a tourism, have a pickleball tournament on Black.
Well, that's
yeah, but it's now mentioned. So I guess that's where I'm getting to, and I don't mean to be me, but I think what's the two, and Dave, yeah, I think you're right there. What's sort of this 2-year thought process? And then let's just make sure we have lot coverage. Let's make sure the land trust is comfortable, the council is comfortable.
So let me just finish my thought. And that is that if we went to K&H, which logistically would be easier because it's a flatter piece of land, the parking is good. We could put 3 dedicated pickleball courts in at K&H. But if you've got 35 people who show up on a fairly regular basis in the summer, we're not talking about shoulder, we're not talking about winter, we're talking about, high season, then you've got 35 people and 3 courts, and you're still going to have some people like, wait a minute, we could use those courts on the basketball court. That's why I think Ball O'Brien could be, I don't want to push anybody off the tennis courts. I don't want to push anybody off the basketball court. But if we had 3 dedicated courts and the opportunity to use those other 2 things when we weren't pushing people off those, it could be a really good scenario for the sport. And we could keep, I happen to play tennis, and I do not think we should remove a tennis court. I think we need to keep 2 dedicated tennis courts. I think we can use both. We can have rolling nets and we can play pickleball and tennis court. But I believe those tennis courts were built for tennis. And if pickleball people show up, if tennis people show up, pickleball should go, so that we need dedicated courts. But I think having them all together and have the opportunity, not to be redundant, to use both makes the most sense.
So can I just raise, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but the land, there needs to be a pretty detailed conversation with the land trust about this, because
I would assume, yeah.
They've been, the Lions Club was vital to all of that stuff, but the land trust, I can recall from following it, worked very hard to accommodate a lot of recreational uses there. So I don't want I mean, I think if there's planning going on, the planning, being the master of the obvious here, I suppose, but the planning group needs to have the land trust as an essential component of that.
And when I sent that email, I copied the land trust, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, if we, yeah,
Right.
I don't, you know.
So I'm just wondering like why, if the point of asking the council is like, should we greenlight Dawn to write this grant proposal? Is that what we're being asked?
Good
But
question.
I would say, so I just want to offer my opinion on this, which is yes. I don't necessarily think we need to solve for parking. These can be two separate events, right? We could, if the land trust, so let's say, so for instance, the trail around the park, when the Lions Club worked on that, I was in charge of that. I worked with the land trust. We had to get the permission of the land trust to use that property, Paul O'Brien Park, for that use. Similarly, to name the trail, to put up a sign. We also worked with the land trust. The land trust has purview over that. So obviously you've got to work with them about pickleball courts there. Then you also have to work with zoning for lot coverage. If all that is green lighted, then I don't see why we wouldn't pursue pickleball courts. I know a lot of pickleball players. There are a few in the room here. They're all capable of riding a bicycle. And if parking is an issue, they can ride a bicycle there. I look at my son's age group out here. There's quite a few of them. They love pickleball. We do not have a gym in our town. We do not have activities for people in their 20s that don't involve alcohol. They're playing pickleball. I say, build some pickleball courts and fast. Like,
But I guess
I don't want parking to be the holdup because they can ride their bicycles. They have scooters. They have plenty of ways to get there, and so do the other people. They can.
agreed. I guess
So why do we hold this up?
my point is, I mean, as I say, I think I sort of was the catalyst of this whole discussion, because I think I'm working with Dawn on the grant. I volunteered to help her write the grant, and my understanding of the grant, and I could be wrong, is that we really need a specific spot. We can't sort of write the grant and say, you know, we have an idea of where it's going to be. We have to really, I mean, there's a lot of points about the location. You know, is it near affordable housing, for example? I mean, that's one of the things we can tie into the grant. Where, you know, is it all sorts of stuff? It really, we need a spot. And we can't really write the grant without a spot. So that's why it's come to a head, I think.
Dawn, did you want to?
Hi,
Go-
yeah, I'm
go ahead,
Dawn
Dawn.
Beamer. I'm the recreation assistant. I guess I just want to make a couple of comments and maybe ask a couple questions here. So we have been engaged with the Nature Conservancy, or I'm sorry, excuse me, Land Trust, about installing pickleball courts on a property, whether it was Paul O'Brien or K&H. And I guess we were discussing putting it on the K&H for a little while, and we reached out to them recently to talk and discuss with them. Can we get on your next agenda so we can speak about this and figure it out? And they said it was too early to kind of talk about that, and they wanted to put off the meeting until springtime. And so we have been engaged with them, but I don't know when I had talked to them at that point in time, we were just talking about the K&H. So maybe now I have to reach out to them again about Paul O'Brien. But the thing with the Paul O'Brien stuff is, you know, just the zoning and all. So we have been trying to engage with them. It's just been really hard to get
So
straight
it's-
answers about things.
It sounds to me that there are a lot of people of good faith who would like to make this happen. And whatever we need to do, let us know.
Yeah.
But I do think it ties into, and I heard you, Molly, I do think it ties into parking planning, just to be able to plan where that could be. It does tie into the courts. Chris, you found the look, or Dave, you found a location or have it for, and then putting that plan together that's longer term so that it includes other stuff. And I think we have to get to land use. And I know, Dave, I think you've been trying there, but I think that's going to be the important thing is if it's 3 courts and so many parking spaces, what implications does that mean to the rest of Ball O'Brien? At some point, there's build out, right? I mean, at some point, we're going to cover the whole thing with courts.
That's a number one concern.
Yeah.
Whether we can.
Right, and I think that from a planning point of view, if I were the land trust or the council, just, okay, where are we now? What happens with 3 courts and parking? And then what does that, does that handcuff us later? And if it does, then let's think about other places. And the other thing is, I'm maybe in a different place than where Chris was. I would love to also look at non-conforming lots around the island. I'd love to look at potentially pickleball or some other courts or basketball court. I realize everything Chris said, noise, all those kind of things, but we've got some places around the island that could be four cars and a pickleball court. Oh, we can talk later.
Next to the,
Like, if we've done this.
Well, the forever football is Faulkner, so we won't go down that one, but
We looked.
right. But Faulkner's one, just as an example, and we all know that that's
Give me a straight story on Faulkner.
right.
What can and can't go there because.
I was actually thinking about, in addition, Chris, I wasn't thinking about this project. I was thinking further down, because that's really going to be the thing, Don, right? So in 2 years, recreational needs aren't slowing down, and there's going to be more. And so I just want to try and get that.
So that was kind of my next question, I guess, too. So and then I wanted to step back because I realized I think originally you had this broader question and we focused on this pickleball thing because it's imminent. And so I wanted to know what do you want from us in terms of that? Would you guys like a list of kind of just our wish list of things that have been ruminating in terms of the projects we would like? I mean, for example, a rec center and these other bigger ideas. What
bring them.
what do you want us to produce and when do you want it?
So here's what I think. I think you and Dave have done an extraordinary job. And I have a great deal of faith in you. So if there are needs that you see over 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, let's talk about those. It's totally free to talk about it, except, Bill's tired and
Longer term goal plans kind of already in the process.
Yeah,
I'm sure you-
yeah.
So there are things that we need, the island needs that, Molly already brought us up and talked about a dedicated gym space, indoor gym space.
Yes.
It's not a gymnasium, but a workout center, for the there's about on the island. And, that's, we've got that on our wish list for, as it's a byproduct in 2000. So, but they're there. We're moving forward with this immediate need. And, I love I love talking to land trust more about what their costs are, what their concerns are and what we can do.
So without being a documentarian, is there a 2 year, 3 year goal plan that you guys could help just quick? I mean, tomorrow kind of. I'm not looking for detail or that. Just like, hey, we would love the 3 pickleball courts in this kind of timing, and then a tennis court and disc golf, and whatever that may be, so that actually you can look at it in one place and go, okay, where, how, this can't happen. And that would, I think, be helpful, at least to me, and I would imagine land trust of like, okay, how do we do this? And then what does that mean for build out? What does that mean? And if it can be done quickly and meet everybody's needs, I think that's a goal in my mind. So I don't want to hold things up, and I don't want to have.
Back to what the original email.
Yeah.
That I said, I was like, the land trust with the cards, if they don't want to meet till the spring, then we can't do anything till the spring. Right? Like, we've asked to meet, if they don't want to meet, then how do you get, what I mean? We have to wait till that happens. The only thing we have control over is Ball O'Brien, which it could be pursued. And the only reason I bring up parking is because
It's real.
The town has been grappling with parking forever and I don't
Neil
want to,
Murphy's not here, so we.
and I don't want to, you know, if this has to go to zoning and I'm not familiar with the parking requirements or for recreational facilities, but when you add more recreational facilities, if zoning's doing their job, they're going to be like, have adequate parking. So, you know, these are just, and I don't think the town should be skirting the rules.
No.
When it comes to that, when it's, you know, so that's why Ball O'Brien, for me, top of the list. We can solve the parking issue. And if it's 3 spots, that's easy. If it's 10, that's a different story. So that's, you know, so I would like to pursue Ball O'Brien, but that you got to make sure that lot coverage, all the other things that go along with that deed restriction, we're not going to be in violation of anything. And, you know, instead of waiting for another board or commission to,
I mean, that's
Give
the
us the okay.
basket I would put your eggs into.
yeah,
Because I'm not gonna speak for the land trust, but my experience and previous use, non-use of K and H does not, in my opinion, that's not the basket I would put your eggs in.
right.
But I think if Dave and Dawn can put that 2-pager together, like what's the plan, and we can all look at it and hopefully move forward. That's
You all right,
the
Keith?
plan.
I'm terrific,
Yeah,
actually.
we'll
Eyes are really itchy
put that on
today.
the agenda for our next,
It wasn't about this.
which is in a couple of weeks. And then I also wanted to say that Will's been very awesome. He stepped forward to volunteer to help work on the grant. It's really great.
Good.
So
Thank
I-
you, Dawn, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say finally, I mean, if you guys feel that Paul O'Brien is the way to go, I mean, that we can maybe get this grant done by December 6th. We'll have to hold a public hearing. We have to get some.
I don't think that's in our purview, though. I mean, it's land trust.
No, I'm not.
Together. I mean, I think all of Brian's an obvious because of bathroom, like Chris said, right? There's a whole lot of things. But that's gotta be, we gotta see the plan a little bit. Because maybe and I'm making this up again, maybe there's something else that goes to Paul O'Brien that's more fitting for Paul O'Brien. So another location is better.
Okay, I mean, I guess, so again, you know, the reason why I brought it to a head is because we have this December 6th thing, and because it's going to be a sort of a 1.5 or 2-year process to get these courts up and running. So if we're held off and Paul O'Brien is off the table, or it's not on the table, maybe on the table, then we're talking down the road. So that's why we're sort of pushing for, you know, I'm with Chris. I think Paul O'Brien is the way to go, but we need that. Okay, and I guess.
But it's not for us to say, okay, it's, let's get the plan, see what the needs will be, what build out is, try and look at lot coverage. And then it may be okay. I don't know.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I get it.
9 weeks before. So.
So can I jump in here? And I don't like to be the skunk at the picnic. But based on the conversation that I just heard from the council and some communication with the land trust, I don't think we'll be able to apply for the grant this year.
I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
I was, it's, you know,
That's-
I'm, you know, it's wishful thinking, but I'm,
Yeah, December 1st is here. And I.
December 1st is here, October 1st is here.
Yeah, but and I applied for these grants, and they do ask for a lot of information, and they do ask for a specific site. You're going to have to include in that the land trust support on that as well as the council.
Right.
And so I think it, and you know, Dawn's done a phenomenal job with this, and she came to me about the grant. So I hope for next year she's as enthusiastic, but I'll make sure she will be.
Well, thank you. I tend to agree with you. I just, if we had to go ahead, it's, you know, it's going to be a long process anyway. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 12, act on recommendation of the town manager to appoint an interim police chief. We're gonna put this last.
So, as you all know, Chief Lynch has resigned, and Lieutenant Dane and I had a conversation soon after Chief Lynch announced his resignation, and Lieutenant Dean has agreed to serve as interim chief for the town as we do our search. So I'm recommending, looking for the council's advice and consent of the appointment of Paul Dean as New Shum's interim police chief.
Thank you. Any comments from the council or the public? Paul, would you like to come up?
Just like to say thank you for the opportunity, and Mary Ann and the council for, if you haven't voted yet, for having the confidence in me.
Well, we'll see.
To step in, to act, to be able to step in and do this job in the interim. I think all of my past chiefs have all given me little tools along the way that I can be successful. The department right now is good, a great staff. We've had a little bit of turnover in administration the last couple of years, and they've all just rolled with it, from the dispatchers answering the phones to the guys answering calls on the road. Everybody's just kind of, kept things running smoothly, and I certainly anticipate that to continue to happen. We've got a couple of projects we've been working on that we look forward to working with Mary Ann and the council to keep these moving forward. So we're not looking at the summer of 2024 knocking on the door and
Right.
my knee ball again.
Yeah.
So I just would like the opportunity to keep working on some of these projects with Mary Ann and the council, keep everything moving forward.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
I just have that sort of called to mind my one thought here, and that is you are going to be the chief, not solely the interim chief. And that's kind of, in other words, I hope you view yourself as becoming the chief, as because it's an important role, and I don't want to do without it. I didn't mean we're appointing you forever. What I meant is, I worry sometimes with an interim tag that it's a placeholder, and as you say, we have a lot of stuff to do, and that's really important to me. I'm thrilled. I think this is good for the town. I have a great deal of faith in you and your ability to lead. So
Honestly, on that end, Keith, I've been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
This town's invested a lot in me in, training, education throughout my career. And this is an opportunity for me to give that back. I have
Thank
a
you.
few more years left before I can retire. And I would love to do that as the chief.
Right.
I spent my last couple of years here. We're going to go through the selection process and the application process and see how that all turns out. But that ultimately is my goal. I would like to retire here as the chief.
Terrific.
I'm very excited about it.
Yes.
And that goal and that position is exactly how I frame it, which is yours to lose, and better not lose it. So. Awesome.
Any other comment? Molly, you want to make a motion to accept the recommendation and appoint Paul Dean interim police chief?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no.
And thank you all.
And you gotta manage.
That's right. I was gonna say, you learn how to play pickleball. There could be some conflicts at Paul O'Brien.
I get it.
I'll bet you do. Item 13.
Can I just
Oh, yeah,
quickly
please.
say-
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure it was separate from the appointing. I've been getting calls from people who want to serve on the interview panel for the applications for a new police chief. And I wanted to know, do they send them to the town clerk to forward them on, or?
What, can we have this discussion at next town council meeting? As to how we intend to.
But Molly's president, I've got them. I've gotten them too.
Okay.
We're all getting
We
it.
have people who are saying, I'd like to be on the selection committee. Can we just have them sent to you
Send them to the
Or
clerk's
or
office.
To the clerk's
Interest.
office.
But it should come in the form of a letter or an email. To the clerk. Okay, thank you.
Item 13, it doesn't make any sense to do this with 3 people, so we're gonna skip that one. Discuss and act on board, commission and committees. We have a vacancy on water of 1 year. We have a vacancy on sewer for 1 year. And we have a vacancy on the Conservation Commission for a term that expires on 12/23. All really vital to our future. So everybody who complains about town government, come and serve. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, David. Thank you, David. Thank you for your detailed